Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
the Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, ooh boy, this is a wild one. We are covering 1988's Pin.
If you haven't heard of Pin, I'm not surprised. Pin is a movie that I have been waiting very anxiously to talk about. I am so excited to talk about this. Most people that I talk to have never even heard of it.
I hadn't.
And that just fills me with joy because I only really recommend this one to people that I know are going to be cool with a movie that once you start watching it, you're going, what the fuck am I watching?
Yes.
I feel like that's a good way to describe it.
I think I said it multiple times while watching this.
Would you like to read the IMDb?
I surely would. Here we go. Isolated by his strange parents, Leon finds solace in an imaginary friend, which happens to be an anatomy doll from his father's doctor's office. Unfortunately, the doll begins to take over Leon's life and his sister's life as well.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, shucks. This came out May 16th, 1988. I could not find out the budget. I don't believe it was very high. It was directed by Sandor Stern, and it was written by Sandor Stern based on the novel by the same name by Andrew Niederman. And actually, Andrew and Sandor got together and wrote the screenplay together.
Nice. This movie was hard to find a lot of information about, and that just makes it more alluring to me. I want to know all the secrets.
Well, it was a Canadian film. Mm-hmm. And
You told me right away. You're like, I can tell this is so Canadian. And I was like, you're going to have to explain it to me because I don't hear it and I don't see it. And when I went to rewatch it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to see if I can pick up what she's talking about. And I can't wait for you to describe it to me. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to describe. What exactly does a Canadian show or movie look like? I don't know how to put it into words, except that when I see something that is Canadian, I know pretty quickly that it's Canadian.
And it's not like the accents.
It's not the accents. It's not the acting. I don't know how to describe it, but my fellow Canadians or people that lived like on the border who also got Canadian programming, I actually was talking to Jesse about this last night about how you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And
can he?
He can.
Interesting.
And he said he thinks it's because growing up in Buffalo, he got Canadian stations.
Okay.
So that he was able to tell the difference between.
You mentioned that this was the movie of the week or something? Was that a program?
Sorry, when I say movie of the week, I'm saying like a Lifetime movie.
Okay. So when you mentioned that to me off of this podcast, that put it in perspective. I was going to say off screen.
Off air?
Off air. Yeah.
Of this podcast.
I could not figure out how to say it. Yes. Off air. Mm-hmm. That kind of put it in perspective. Like, okay, so to you, a Canadian movie, does that maybe feel like more like a Lifetime movie, like that vibe? Because Lifetime movies do have a vibe.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to articulate what it is. This specifically is a movie of the week, though.
Okay.
This was made for TV.
So if you can also pinpoint, no pun intended with pin, but when a movie is Canadian or a show is Canadian, if you can articulate it, please let us know because I'm so curious. But yeah, I couldn't pick it up and I've been around Canadians forever.
See, that's also why I'm wondering if maybe because you also got Canadian stations, like you can't even tell the difference.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I actually love Canadian programming. Hello, Degrassi.
Okay, I loved Degrassi growing up.
Love Degrassi. But it definitely feels Canadian to me.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see that Terry O'Quinn is in this movie.
He's from Lost. Most famously, I would say.
Lost. He's in the Stepfather movies. He's in Young Guns. He is just the man, and he's fantastic in this movie.
He is.
Also, the voice of Pin is the same actor that plays Mike in Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think I realized that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was
that.
kind of neat. And I love that they use a different voice for Pin. It's not Terry O'Quinn.
Yes.
They use an actual, I liked that.
Yeah.
And I loved that Terry O'Quinn does this incredible thing with his mouth during this movie where it looks like he's a ventriloquist and he does it really subtly. It's just really, the acting is just
like with all the movies that we cover, we always encourage you to watch them before you listen. Mm-hmm. This is such a weird experience, this whole movie, that you might want to listen to this to hear what we have to say about it, just to see if it's something you want to watch. But if you want to see something weird and just dive into it, just don't even listen to anything we're saying yet, then come back to the episode and we can talk about it.
Yeah. And if you guys don't like spoilers, just stop listening.
Period.
Because we are going to dissect it. That's
Always.
what we do.
And I think that's implied. But also I wanted to mention that you can watch this movie in full for free on YouTube. It's not a great quality.
Bad quality.
Yeah. But it's watchable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was my only option. So
yeah,
I think that's the only place you can watch it unless you have it, right?
I think so. I don't even think I found it for rent when I looked.
No, I couldn't find it. I looked on Fandango. I think you can buy it. I wanted to buy it.
Yeah, I want a collector's edition of this, and I think a collector's edition doesn't exist.
No, probably not. No.
But I want them to make one for me.
You never know.
I love this movie. So
okay,
let's get
I
into
feel like
it.
I haven't even said that. I liked it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to ask you.
I haven't even touched on it yet. I actually loved this movie.
I'm so glad.
It was a fucking wild ride. It reminded me of Psycho. It reminded me so much of Psycho.
Yeah. I think I'm used to you suggesting movies that I haven't seen yet. So I forgot to even ask you if you liked it.
I loved it.
Hell yeah.
You know, I love inanimate objects coming to life. Okay. It's one of my favorite tropes. And really quickly about the director, Sandor Stern. He was actually a medical doctor before becoming a director.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, I hope he didn't do any of the things this doctor did.
God willing. And he was a big fan of the characters from the novel.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's why he wanted to adapt it into a movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are going to get into this wild ride. So the movie starts out with there are 4 kids, they're outside of a house, and they're kind of, they're egging each other on to go up to the house because they're like talking about what's in the house.
It was very, are you afraid of the dark to me?
Yes. Like, are you going to go up there? No, you go up there. Oh, if you're not scared, you go up there, like that type of thing. And they're like, it's just a dummy. It's not real. And so we don't know exactly what they're talking about yet. Mm-hmm. One of the kids finally gets pushed to go climb up a trellis up to this house.
Goes right up there.
Yeah, like up to the 2nd story, mind you. So he's climbing a trellis on the house. Very dangerous. Don't do that. They could break. And also, the trespassing thing. But other than that, they could break. And he looks in the window and he sees eyes that blink like through a curtain, like a sheer curtain, and whispers something to him.
Help.
Oh, is that what it says?
Yes.
I didn't even catch that when I was writing my notes.
Says help. Mm-hmm.
Help. So he screams and runs away.
Yeah, and all the kids take off.
Yeah. So Penn has been around for a minute.
So it's 15 years earlier and we are in an old ass house. This house has plastic all over the furniture. It gave me flashbacks to going to like friends' houses and them having like rooms that we weren't allowed to go in because it was like no children are allowed in the room.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Not at my house.
Yeah.
All bets were off at my house. But my house was like the hangout. Like people like to come there. But
yeah,
there were definitely houses where it was like certain areas were off limits to kids.
Wow. Yeah. Like they show the mom vacuuming here. As soon as the kids move from brushing their teeth, she's vacuuming the spot that they were just on. So we established right away, they are like, the mom at least is a neat freak.
I would say neurotic for sure. And the kids are like just like eating cookies and like being kids. And she's like all up their ass, like cleaning around them. Dad is watching classical music. And it right off the hop, the house felt very sterile.
Right.
And
And that makes sense because the dad is a doctor.
Absolutely. So the kids walk into the room and they're going to say goodnight to their dad, who is Terry O'Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And before they go to bed, he quizzes them.
Yeah. Like they have homework before they can go to sleep.
Like he's like, count from some number backwards.
He says count backwards by 7s from 100.
I can't do that.
I can't do that as an adult sober. Imagine, I don't know why I said sober. I'm thinking of like when they test you, if you like drinking and driving, they'll have you like do the alphabet backwards. I'm like, I can't do that sober. But count backwards from 7 by 7s from 100, only to the boy. The little girl who's like a few years younger, she only has to like count to 10, I think, which makes sense for the age.
Absolutely. And it's also worth noting the little girl's name is Ursula and the little boy's name is Leon.
Correct.
And the father is a doctor, which we will soon find out. Mm-hmm. And the room that they're in is like, it almost looks like a library. There's like lots of books. So obviously like education is important to the parent, to the father, and cleanliness and keeping everything immaculate in the house is important to the mother.
Yes. So we cut to the next day or soon after that at the doctor's office, which he has his kids there, and he's talking to Penn. and we are introduced to Pin. We're going to describe Pin. Pin is an anatomy doll that is see-through. So you can see like his musculatory.
You can see all his skeleton. Like you can see all of his muscles in his body. You can see, it's essentially what you would see like in anatomy class.
Yeah, I imagine he opens up to have a skeleton, but you basically see a face with muscles. His muscles are exposed, and then like the eyeballs, right?
Yep.
Very creepy. And the father is talking to Pin, and Pin seems to be talking back to him.
It's really fucking weird. I mean, as soon as it started, literally when the scene started, I was like, I paused it and I was like, Jess, you need to come in here for just a second.
Just see what I'm experiencing right now. That makes me so happy.
My jaw was open. I was going, what the fuck is happening here?
It's also important to note, Pin is a full body anatomy doll, like head to toe. Okay.
He's like a mannequin. He's basically a mannequin, but he's anatomically like correct. Like you can see all of his like shit.
Right. And so the father seems to be using Pin, however that may be, whether Pin is really talking to them or maybe the father's doing the voice. That's going to kind of be the question throughout this entire movie, is what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
He's using Pin for education. Either way. And he leaves the room and the kids go up to Pin and they're fascinated with him.
Yeah, they definitely think that he's alive.
Yes. And they're trying to talk to him. And Ursula tells Leon, you know, the father doesn't like us to talk to Pin when he's not around.
Yes.
Which makes sense if you're thinking, oh, well, obviously the father's doing the voice. But it also just feels really creepy. And so even when the kids leave the room at first, the dad is still talking to Pin, furthering the belief that, because they're kind of peeking in the door and he's still talking to Pin.
Yeah, it's kind of really making the audience wonder whether or not Pin is actually alive.
Yeah, and I think that will continue throughout the entire movie. At least it did for me. If you're willing to consider that there is a possibility he's alive, you could see where they might have done that in the movie. But okay, well, we'll get to it.
I definitely did not think Pin was alive.
I also forgot to mention, I was going to wait until a certain scene to mention it, but I should probably mention, I saw this movie for the first time as a kid. I think I was in junior high. I was at a sleepover where this girl's family let her watch whatever. I was not allowed to watch R-rated movies. I've mentioned before on this podcast. So at the sleepover, we watched, I want to say, Dolls for the first time, covered my eyes, The Exorcist for the first time. All of these were first times for me. And this movie that I could not remember the name, I only remembered a specific scene that we'll get to, one specific scene. And for years, I could not find this movie. So when I finally figured out which one it was, I was so excited. And I'm so excited that I can now pass it along to you.
I love that story, actually. I do. I love it because I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Of like when you're like, did I make it up? Was this a fever dream? Did I actually watch this movie?
Yes. And when you feel like you really will never find it, because at the time that I remembered it later on, I don't know, Google just wasn't what it was now. So even when I was searching for it the first time, I could never find it. But finally now I feel like you can just type it in. We'll get to the scene and I'll describe it a little more.
Okay.
But
so Dad's still talking to Pin. It's weird. And there's also, because he was like, there was like a kid there and he was like diagnosing the kid. And it almost seemed like he was like talking to Pin about it.
Yeah. And it was also weird. He had his kids in there while he's helping another kid who I assume is a patient.
Yeah, definitely. The father is very about educating the kids.
Right.
In my opinion, a very unhealthy, extreme way.
In a way that has no boundaries.
Perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries at all. So we're back at the house and the mother is yelling at poor little Leon. The mother points out something on the floor and just basically like bitches at him for not cleaning up after himself.
Yeah, he had some friend over and he tracked dirt in the house or something. And she's like, that boy, he looks diseased and he can't come over anymore.
Yeah, he's gross. He can't come here anymore. It's so, they really do lay out the dynamic very quickly about how kind of dysfunctional this family is.
Yeah. And Leon's like, why don't you sterilize him at the door then? And she slaps him.
She slaps him, dude.
Yeah. And so he runs away. He's like, fuck this. I hate you, Mom. He doesn't say that, but that's the vibe.
He does. He takes off and he goes into town.
Yeah, he literally is like, all right, bye.
I'm out of here. And he when he's walking these two little kids, he bumps into these two little kids, and the one kid is like, come on, Leon, let's play. And then the older kid is like, this guy's not going to play with us. Like, he's just kind of shitty to him.
Yeah.
So it's obvious they know, like, I think the town knows that the parents are, like, kind of overbearing.
Yes, because even that older kid says something about like, oh, you think he can't get his clothes dirty or something like that.
That's right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So he goes to his dad's office. He's so upset. He's not even going to see his dad. He's going to see Pin.
He's going to see Pin because he doesn't have any friends.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad.
He sees his dad leave the office and he goes upstairs and he finds Pin. And, his dad doesn't like him talking to Pin when he's not there. And he tells Pin, like, I know that father doesn't like us talking to you, but I have no other friends. The way you're blinking at me.
Because
you know what's coming.
I know exactly what's about to happen.
Because you know what's coming. So now Pin is not responding. Interesting. You can believe what you want, okay? Whether you're a believer or a non-believer in Pin. And
he's like Santa Claus.
I know. And so a nurse starts coming into that room and Leon hides. Obviously, he doesn't want to be found.
Yeah, and at first you're like thinking like, okay, the nurse is like putting shit away or whatever.
She is. She's putting stuff away, whatever. And then
she's putting something away.
She's hiding something. Let me tell you what it is.
She walks in and she walks straight over to Pin the ladies, man.
I wrote in all caps, the scene that's burned into my brain. This is why I sought this movie out years later, because of this one scene, that the only scene I remembered from childhood, mind you. Okay.
She like lifts her freaking coat up. At first I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
What is happening here? And then she full on pulls Pin, like she picks Pin up. She marches her ass over to the exam table and she lifts Pin up on top of her. And starts dry humping him.
Yeah. Which I thought was an interesting choice to put him on top.
Because I think they're trying to make you think that he's alive.
And that wasn't, I was like, why would he be on top if it wasn't alive? I'm just saying.
And when you were a little kid, I can only imagine your brain was going like, what is happening?
I really didn't know what was happening. I was just
confusing as a child. Just like when Leon's looking at this, right?
Yeah, because Leon's watching behind a curtain and he's not peeping like a little, peeping Tom. He's very upset.
He looks distraught.
He really is obsessed with Pin. He's like covering his ears. He's closing his eyes. He's not like, what's happening? No.
She's moaning. She's fully enjoying herself. It is absolutely wild.
So when I remembered this scene randomly, I looked it up. When I would look it up before, I'm like, nurse fucks anatomy doll. Movie where nurse fucks anatomy doll. Could not find anything.
Imagine what the fucking results
No,
were.
for real. I needed to go incognito for that one. But
private browser.
Yeah. But then more recently, if you type that in, it'll come up right away.
It came up right away when I Googled it.
But I swear when I looked it up, when I first remembered it, like, I don't know, 10 years after I watched it, nothing would come up. I could not find this fucking movie. So when I finally did, I was so excited to watch it again. And then I was very pleasantly surprised that I actually really liked the story.
Yeah.
Because for only remembering that one crazy ass scene, the story is good.
Yeah. It's a wild ride.
This was a choice.
It was. Absolutely.
Also, wouldn't the anatomy doll's penis be flaccid? Wouldn't it be like pointing down? Because it's supposed to be like gravitationally correct.
I don't know. Doesn't he? I thought he didn't have one.
You know what? That's it. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she's just rubbing him on her.
No. Well, yes, I do think that. Now that makes sense. But he does definitely have a penis because we're going to get to a scene about that.
But he's not penetrating her.
Right. I think that she's just rubbing it on her.
Rubbing on.
I think so. But I think he does have a penis.
I mean, vibrators were a thing in the 80s. At least get yourself a massager or something.
I was going to say, they were probably like this big. And it's like a fucking jackhammer.
Well, in Lisa Frankenstein, she has a big old wand.
The big wand, yeah.
So, girl, there are other options.
Maybe she couldn't have one at home. Like,
okay, well, use your fingers like a normal person. Why are you fucking the anatomy doll?
It's wild.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, I shouldn't kink shame. But honestly...
The fact that that's used for like children's education, I'm going to say maybe don't fuck the anatomy doll.
That's what I'm saying.
I hope she at least washed it.
There's no way she did. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Holy shit. Okay.
So we are now at Ursula's birthday and she's blowing out candles on a cake.
I was going to say, if that doesn't sell you on this movie, I don't know what else will.
Haven't you ever had the fantasy of... No, I'm kidding. Okay. Anyways, so...
Yeah, birthday.
It's her birthday, and Dad hands her a gift from the parents, and she's like, oh, cool. But then he's like, here's a gift from Pin. And she's like, oh, I'm opening the one from Pin first. And it's this little ballerina, like, music doll thing that me and AK have talked about, how we hate these dolls.
And I feel like every girl in the 90s had one.
It's like a little ballerina music box.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Leon, though, even though this is Ursula's present, Leon is obsessed that the fact that it's from Pin.
That it's from Pin.
He's like looking at it, just admiring it. He's like, of course Pin would get something like that.
It's so thoughtful.
That's so Pin.
Oh boy.
And they're talking about it. They're laying in bed together later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're in the room.
Just as brother and sister, chilling out, whatever. Yeah. Leon's obsessed with Pin, talking about Pin. His sister is looking at
like a nudie magazine,
like a Playboy or something. Yeah, along those lines. I don't. What kind of what brand did you have in Canada? Was it Playboy or was it something else?
We had Hustler.
Okay.
Playboy, and those are the only two I can think of.
Okay, same.
Yeah, and so Ursula's like kind of, I don't want to say enamored, but she's curious. Like she's like any little kid would be.
Yeah,
because I'm sure at some point in your childhood you saw like a nudie magazine.
Oh, this exact scene like happened to me.
Right. Yeah. I remember I saw porno when I was really young, and it was just like because a friend of mine had one of those scramble boxes.
It's always a friend or an older cousin or something that's like, look.
Yeah, exactly. It was against my will. But I remember like it was like we were all just sort of like, whoa. Like, what is that? And there is that curiosity where you're just like, what is happening here?
Well, yeah, and not even in a sexual way. You're like,
exactly.
Ursula says here, she's looking at a picture of a nude woman and she looks at Leon and she's like, do you think I'm going to look like this?
Yeah, she's like a little kid and she says that her friend Marcia gave it to her.
Yeah.
Leon full on calls Marcia a pig.
Oh my gosh. Because she's getting boobs.
Yeah.
She's like, Marcia already has breasts or whatever she says. And he's just like, Marcia's a pig. I don't know. It was weird.
So already, they've already like set the stage for sexual repression and sexual confusion. And it's just very obvious that the two kids have a different view of sex.
Yes.
At this age. And especially Leon watching the nurse.
Yeah.
I was about to say take advantage of Pin.
I mean, she kind of did. She definitely didn't have Pin's consent.
And I'm sure Leon is looking at it that way as well.
Yeah.
That it seems like for him, like sex is very wrong, dirty, and scary.
Yeah.
Right?
He's very close-minded and very like, no, I'm good. I don't need to know anymore. Where Ursula seems very open-minded and curious.
She's curious. Yeah, exactly.
And so he keeps talking about Pin and she's just like, Pin is an office dummy. He's not coming home. Like he's in the office or whatever. Like he stays at the office and he slaps her.
He is so pissed about that.
He learned that from his mother, the violence. And then the mom bursts in because of course she hears a commotion.
Yep.
And she finds them in the same room, which apparently was weird to her. She was like, why are you both in here? Like,
see, again.
It sets a weird tone.
Again.
You're like, why can't they just sit in bed together as children?
These parents are creating so much dysfunction and confusion within their children.
Yeah.
That there's nothing wrong with a brother and sister hanging out. And the fact that she's storming in and making it out like it's a big deal makes me question what her relationship was like with her brother and what her relationship was like with her parents. And there's definitely some psychological issues here.
Yeah, because you don't think when they first showed them in the bed just hanging out.
They just look like kids to me. Like
you don't think
out.
anything of it. But then when she says that, you feel like something is implied and you're like, wait, am I missing something?
Yeah, like it was almost just like, oh God, this is some flowers in the attic shit.
Yeah.
All right.
And so she sees a magazine. Of course, she's not happy about it. And so I assume she tells the father because the next scene, we're back at the office with the doctor and the children and Pin.
We're learning all about the need.
Oh, I want to fucking projectile vomit.
My whole body like recoiled when Pin is explaining like sex to them. And when he calls it the need, honestly, I felt like bile come up.
Like you're trying to make it sound better, but you're actually making it sound worse. And it's very uncomfortable.
The need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Pin, not the father, Pin is giving the kids sex ed at the office. The father, of course, is in the room. Maybe is the voice, maybe isn't.
This is where the camera pans to the father and you can see him being a ventriloquist.
Yeah. So this is where he tells the kids, go take the towel off of his lap. Because when Pin is sitting in the chair, he does have a towel covering him. So that's why I assume he does have genitalia.
Gotcha.
Go take the towel off of his lap as he's explaining the need and the difference between, their differences, basically their brother and sister. And later, Leon and Ursula are talking about what they learned. And at one point, I think it's Ursula that's like, I bet before they do it, mother washes his penis with spick and span.
It's pretty funny.
Because they're wondering if they're like, do you think mom and dad have the need? And I'm like, ew.
But it was like a very like little kid conversation. Like there was innocence to it, you know?
Yeah, that feels innocent. And Ursula asked Leon if he ever has the need. He says no, like flat out.
Yeah, like I'm not old. Doesn't he say I'm not old enough?
He does, even though he's older than Ursula.
Yeah, he says, no, I'm not old enough yet. And she tells him that she can't wait to be old enough because she thinks she's really going to like it.
Yeah. Which I was like, wow, okay. So just once again establishing she's very open-minded and curious, and he is like, no. So fast forward, they are now in high school.
Yeah, it took me a second. I was like, I feel like we're in the future.
Yeah, they do jump ahead and they don't label it there. So you're just like, wait, okay, this is Leon. Got it. Leon is like, he's going to school in a suit and tie. Like dress shirt, tie, taken after his father, I assume. He's very pristine.
I guess, yeah.
I think.
And it's a dance, right?
Yeah, there's a dance going on, but he wears it like every single time in school.
That's a good point.
And I don't think it was a uniform because I don't think anyone else was wearing it.
Yeah.
But there is a dance going on and he's walking through the school. We see a locker that has written on it, if you want an easy screw, Ursula will do. How shitty.
Terrible. Yeah.
So Leon goes to the dance to try to find Ursula. He bumps into, I want to say her name is Marsha.
He does, but before he does that, he tries to clean the locker off.
Right.
He bumps into
he's
those.
upset.
First of all, he bumps into those kids, and he knows that they're the ones that wrote on the locker, and he doesn't say anything to them. Which low key, I was like, "You're a big brother. Like the least you could do is like try to fight them and get your ass kicked in the process." But you still stood up for your sister.
Yeah.
He goes to the locker. He spits on his hand, and he's trying to like clean the paint off her locker,
Yeah.
which to me indicates that he's not mad at the kids for doing it. He's mad that it's going to reflect poorly on him, that
Right.
his sister has a reputation for being quote unquote promiscuous.
Right.
Anyways.
So I can tell you're getting so mad at them.
I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, as you should. So Leon goes, and I want to say it's Marsha that he talks to.
Who also looks 30.
I know. She probably was in real life. But she starts kind of flirting with him, like, do you want to dance? And he's like, not interested.
He nopes out of there real fast.
Immediately. He's not interested. He's looking for Ursula. He finds Ursula getting freaky in a car because she does tell him, I think I saw her outside or whatever.
And now Leon starts beating the shit out of this guy.
Now he drags this guy out of the car, whoops his ass.
Meanwhile, why?
Ursula was like, what are you doing? Like, she is consenting. He is consenting. You know,
Exactly. What has nothing to do with him being a protective older brother at all.
No, because then they're driving home and he's like, how many guys have you been screwing?
He berates her.
Yeah.
Fully berates her. And he tells her that he doesn't want to have a sister that's a tramp. And if she fucks anyone else, then he won't be her brother anymore.
Yes.
Like, okay, Leon.
Wild.
Okay. Excuse me while I pack my fucking bags.
He's like, what have you been screwing the whole football team? Like, hold up.
First of all,
go ahead.
Who cares?
Right.
I'm sorry, but honestly, when you're figuring shit out.
My one question would be, are you using protection?
Absolutely.
Be safe.
Of course.
Be safe.
Of course.
But other than that, like, he found her. This is another thing that pisses me off. He found her having consenting sex with one person, and that translates to, oh, you've been fucking the whole football team.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. That is, you've expressed it better than it's coming out of my mouth because I'm getting so fucking frustrated. But that's exactly right. She's sleeping with someone and automatically she's a slut.
Right. It's very frustrating.
I was very upset.
But we see it all the time in real life.
Well, because we're girls and we've experienced being slut shamed, and it's the absolute worst, especially in high school when you're vulnerable and you're figuring shit out.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I'll stop getting so heated.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I think it's meant to. He goes so hard on her that I feel like it is meant to invoke some type of emotion. Like, wow, he's a little extreme.
Yeah.
So back at home, she walks up to Ursula, being walks up to her parents who are having tea outside. Like, they live on a huge property. They have a lakeside house, basically.
Yeah, they got a nice house. They're loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, the dad's a pretty successful doctor. He's got his own practice, so I imagine he's making good money.
And as she walks through, she kind of walks up to them like she wants to, I don't know, say something to them. They don't even look up at her.
They don't even acknowledge her existence.
No. And it's very telling of just this whole family dynamic.
Yeah, nobody talks about anything. It's all swept under the rug.
And so Leon is reading by the lake, and Ursula sits down with him and basically tells him that she thinks she's pregnant because it's been 2 months since her period. Leon is obviously disgusted. He's like, you told me that you wouldn't do it again. And she's like, do the math. Like, this was the last time. that I had sex or whatever.
2 months late? Like, whoa, I'd be freaking out after a week.
Right.
Like 2 months.
She's like, just in case. I mean, maybe hers was just irregular. Always. You never know.
I mean, she's young, so possibly.
Yeah, she's like, just in case, I'm really going to wait it out. But Leon's like, you have to tell father.
I mean, he immediately is like, tell dad.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I'll go to someone else.
She wants to go to someone else for obvious reasons. This is not a very open discussion household.
Right.
So, but he's like, no, you have to tell dad.
Yeah, and he does make a good point. He's like, there are dollars. There are 6 doctors in this whole town, and you're 15. Do you think that they're not going to call your father? I'm like, okay.
He's not wrong.
But even then, I still would not go to my father for what happens next.
Are you kidding me? There's no way. I mean, I would tell my mom immediately because I tell I could tell my mom everything. But oh my God, my dad.
Right. But this mother, you're not telling shit to her.
No.
But then Leon suggests, let's talk to Pin. They're teenagers at this point. I want to say Leon has to be a senior by the age.
I would say he's 17, 18. I'd say he's 18, 17, 18. I would say she's like 15. I think she says she's 15.
She is 15, yeah.
And she at this point already knows that Pin is not real.
Yeah, when
the
he
illusion
says that,
is gone.
Yes, when he says, let's talk to Pin, she's like, there's a moment where she just pauses and looks at him and she's like, I'm coming to you with like the most horrible thing I've ever had to present to someone.
Like a real problem.
Yes.
This is a real life problem.
And
she looks at him like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? It's a fucking mannequin.
Yes.
Like my literal quote on my notes is, Ursula is like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? He's a fucking mannequin, you dumb fuck.
Okay, I wrote, she's like, are you fucking serious? She doesn't say either of those things, but that's the vibe she gives with her look. Yeah. And then, you can tell right away that she realizes something is off with Leon because she immediately switches and starts playing along. And she's like, well, he won't talk to us if father's not there.
Right. It's that fawning. She fawns a little bit.
Yeah.
To de-escalate. Because he kind of gets like, every time somebody even remotely criticizes Pin or suggests that he's not real, Leon gets real upset. He gets heated like immediately.
Yes, like very aggressive. Like he slapped her when they were kids and she said he's just an office dummy. So they do go to Pin. She does humor him. She's like, whatever, let's just go. He, of course, does not answer them. Okay. And then she's like, all right, we tried your way. I'm leaving. And as she's walking out the door, you hear Pin say, don't go, in his creepy little voice. And Ursula's like, what the fuck?
But also, Pin's voice is different from what it was like earlier in the film.
Correct.
And Ursula's looking like, okay, my brother is definitely voicing this doll.
Yeah, she walks up to Leon and is like staring at his face as Pin is talking to her. She's staring at him and she's like, how are you doing that? And he's like, doing what?
Yeah.
So yeah, she runs away. I don't blame her. She's like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Leon starts going on this tangent after he's like, doing what? He's like, I just can't believe it. Like how incredible Pin wants to talk to me. Like he's the chosen one now. Like he used to only talk to father, but now he talks to me, blah, blah, blah.
It's so fantastical. And it's it's just so obvious that this kid has like deep trauma.
Something's going on.
He's very lonely.
But then they show things like after they're having that conversation outside of the building, they're about to go home. They pan up to whatever third story. Pin seems to be looking at them from the window. So they just keep putting little things in there where you're like, what is going on though? Like, like you don't like, especially after that for me, when Ursula was like looking at him and she's like, how are you doing that? I'm like, okay, it is a ventriloquist act.
Yeah.
But what the fuck is going on at the same time?
Sure. Yeah.
Because they just make you question it. They try to put little bits here and there.
For sure.
So now we are fast forward a little bit and we're back in the office. And Ursula is in a gown, like a medical gown. You're sitting on the table like you're about to get in a gynecology exam.
Yep.
Long story short, she's about to get an abortion by her own father.
Yes.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
He is going to terminate her pregnancy. And, okay, there are a few things wrong with this. I don't think I need to state all of them.
Yeah.
But Leon is in the room.
Oh, yeah, that's important to note.
And the dad is like, this is a great learning experience for you.
Yeah, because he's going to leave. Leon's going to leave. And he's like, aren't you going to stay and watch? This is educational.
And Leon doesn't want to stay.
Surprisingly, actually. I thought he was going to.
Yeah. He doesn't want to stay. The father, it's just so It's so upsetting. And I know that's the point of the movie, right? Like you know,
how bizarre everything is.
Yeah, and just like how they're really painting this picture for these kids to grow up feeling confused about sex,
Yeah.
about, you know, feelings,
Yeah.
what's normal, what, you know, it's really painted like sex is this really bad thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like the father performing the termination on her, one was because he didn't want anyone in town finding out about it.
Oh, right.
I also think that he knew that it would be embarrassing and traumatic for her to receive that from him.
Uh-huh.
I think so. I think it was really a gross display of power on the part of the father.
Okay.
And the fact that she grows up to be like, I don't want to say normal because that sounds really unfair, but the fact that she grows up with a level head,
yeah,
is incredible.
Yeah.
Because that kind of having to terminate your pregnancy is traumatic enough and is one of the hardest decisions I think a person has to make. And for your father to use it as a teaching lesson for your brother is so insanely fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to really. It's so the magnitude of it is just so crazy.
Absolutely.
Right? Am I overreacting to that?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that like my body tensed up as soon as I realized what was happening, because at first I actually thought that he was just going to test her for pregnancy. I didn't understand what was happening until he said, as far as your mother is concerned, your sister is just having menstrual problems, because obviously she was going to be recovering at home, right?
Yeah.
So they're not even telling the mother about it.
It just makes everything so like hush hush.
Yeah.
You know, let's just, and I mean, that's so common.
It's real life. Yeah, for sure.
It's really common to just sweep things under the rug. You don't want to be, I even remember straight up when I was in high school, I needed to get Plan B, whatever. And it wasn't over the counter. You had to get a prescription for Plan B.
Oh,
okay.
wow,
I
yeah.
was maybe 17.
Yeah.
Knew I needed it.
Yeah.
Went to the doctor. I didn't have any shame about it. My mom has always been super open with me about sex and stuff. So like I knew, even though I was on birth control, I still was like, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
Went to get it. And I remember as I was like, I went to tell my doctor about it and we were walking down the hall. And I mean, he was like, oh, shh, shh, shh. No, let's go in the office. Shh. Like he shushed me to go in the office to write the script.
Like maybe, did he think that he was like helping you, like you were going to be embarrassed?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, but he's still.
But I wasn't embarrassed is the point. And I don't think you need to be embarrassed about that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that happened when I was 17. It still sticks in my head.
Yeah, that absolutely. That would stick with me too. Side note, for those of you who don't know, just because I know some people don't know this, because I had to have this conversation with someone one time, Plan B will prevent a potential pregnancy.
Yeah.
It does not terminate one.
No.
Some people don't know that for real.
No, that's true. Yeah. It's just if you think, you know, if you have unprotected sex or the condom breaks or whatever.
Yes.
It ensures that you do not get pregnant. I think like 98% sure. I don't know what the stats are, but in any event, the doctor didn't think it was very comfortable for him.
Yeah. So now we go back to it's nighttime at the house, and the father is going to give some speech somewhere, and he needs paperwork. The parents are leaving. The mom's going with him, and he forgot the paperwork, whatever he needs at the office. So they go back to the office to grab it, and the father finds Leon in the office talking to Pin.
Yes.
He is very disturbed by this.
He doesn't even look angry. He looks
like when he peeks in, he hears, that's actually what he hears first, I think, is Pin's voice. And he's like, what the fuck? Because I'm Pin's voice is probably what he was thinking. I also imagine he must have been thinking, oh no, I fucking created a monster.
I hope he was thinking that.
He seemed very disturbed. He didn't seem like...
He didn't seem mad. He seemed worried.
Or even like, he didn't seem happy, because there's another part of me that's like, is the father like, yes, let's... I don't know. Like, is he in on it? Like, yes, we worship Pin. You just never know which direction this was going to go.
For sure.
So it confirmed for me in that scene that he was... I think he thought that he created a monster for sure. Because he's like... He goes in and he's like, hey, just go home, but I don't want your mom to see you.
And like Pin was also saying like, you need to get the best education possible. And I mean, he wasn't saying bad things.
Yeah.
Per se, but It was definitely odd.
Right. So he's hiding in a bush outside the front of the building because he's waiting for them to drive away so his mom doesn't see him. And he sees his father the father's taking Penn out of the office under a sheet and throwing him in the back of the car.
Yeah, and he tells his wife, like, oh, I thought it would be good. It would be a good, like, diagram or something for whatever presentation that they're giving.
Yeah, but you can tell he is distraught.
Oh, he took it because he didn't want the kid talking to him.
Yeah,
for sure.
he didn't want him going back up there. And the mom is like, oh, that thing creeps me out. I don't want it in the car. And he's like, I got the sheet over it, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not alive, girl. Come on.
Leon, watching from the bushes, starts fucking crying as they walk away. Like, this is serious for him. Mm-hmm. Now the father is flying down these winding roads. Okay,
Yeah.
they're running late.
They're running late and they're speeding and the mom's like, slow down. The roads are literally like winding, like they're winding up a mountain or
It
something.
looks like a cartoon.
Yes.
And it's so chaotic. Like, it feels so stressful because the music and he's speeding and the mom's like, wait, like, please stop speeding, and she's like flying around the car.
Flying all over the car. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think seatbelts were like very enforced at that point.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And Penn is also flying around the car because, he's not buckled in like he should be. And the sheet like comes off him at one point and the father sees Penn in the rearview mirror. He's very distracted by this.
Yeah.
Eventually flies through a construction barrier and flips the fucking car.
Yeah, because Penn falls forward and like kind of falls on the dad's like shoulder and the dad's like,
yeah,
and like drives off.
You can tell he's getting increasingly scared. Like so another part, if you're a believer, the other side is, what does he think Penn is alive?
That's what now that I know.
Right.
Dude, I'm watching this movie. I was literally like, why is this man freaking out over a dummy that he voices?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't understand why he was like losing it. And my only thought was that, I don't know, he was so distraught over seeing his kid talk to him. I don't know.
I think that he was very distraught about that. And I think from the rational standpoint, he realized that he has created this, that he was doing the voice and now he's making his son do it, and maybe his son has something going on that he needs to figure out.
Right.
On the other side, you can think of it as he didn't realize that Leon was doing the voice and he thinks, oh my gosh, Penn really is alive.
This
and
doctor, this highly educated man, grown man. Because
he seemed like so creeped out.
I know.
And he was just kept staring at Penn in the back seat and then flips the fucking car over it.
Flipped that car. It was like a total 80s thing. Like in the 80s, they loved like flipping and blowing up cars.
Oh yeah.
It was great.
And in 90s, WWF loved damaging a car, loved blowing up a car.
Oh my God. Maybe that's why I want to like go to one of those rooms, just beat the shit out of a car. That'd be so fun.
Gosh, it'd be so fun. I said blowing up. I don't think they ever, maybe once they blew up that car, but usually it was like hitting it with a sledgehammer or something.
Typically. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
So the parents are dead, by the way. And
oh yeah. I'm like, what? Oh yeah.
And Leon is at the crime scene for some reason and walks over to the vehicle and pulls Penn out of the car.
He's only concerned about Penn.
That's the only thing he cares about. His parents are dead, and the only thing he wants is Penn, which I think screams volumes to living in that household.
And his mental health in general.
For sure.
So cut to the funeral, parents' funeral.
Yep, we're introduced to Aunt Dorothy.
Yes, old Auntie Dorothy.
And she kind of tells them, like, don't worry, kids, I'm gonna be here to take care of you guys. Like, I'll be back. I think she's gonna come back in a couple days or in a week or something. And Leon, you can tell by the conversation, he's not into this.
No, he's not really feeling it, but she's like, Ursula's a minor. Okay, so relax. I'm going to be the adult supervision.
Yeah, because Leon's kind of saying like, no, you don't have to.
Yeah.
And he also makes mention, I don't know if he says it to Ursula or whatever, but they are the beneficiaries. So they have the full estate.
Yeah.
Plus all the parents' life insurance money and all that.
Yeah, they're loaded.
They're very, very loaded. Yes, exactly. And basically Leon is like saying like, we don't need Dorothy.
Yes.
Yeah, to Ursula.
So we cut to Ursula waking up to Leon talking. And she kind of walks into that room to see who is Leon talking to. He has put Penn in a suit, and I'm assuming it's one of their dad's suits.
It is, yeah.
So she's very upset.
Or do you think it's one of his suits?
It could be one of his too.
Yeah, I don't know.
For some reason, I just assumed. I think later he puts him into one of the dads because she does say something about it. But she freaks out and she's like, "Father did not want Penn in the house." That's another thing. They always call him father.
Father.
To each their own.
It's very sterile.
But that, yes, it feels very formal and I don't like it. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Leon is like, Penn is family. You don't talk about him like that. Like every time you question Penn, it's going to be a problem.
For sure.
So then we see Ursula at the library and she's reading a stack of books about schizophrenia.
Yeah, but hold on a second. Did she pull all the plastic off the furniture yet? I feel like that was such an important little note.
I don't think I wrote that down.
She, like, when they're, after the parents died, they're like hanging out in the living room and Leon is kind of going on about how, like, mother is probably, like, you know, cleaning everything in heaven, and they're like laughing about it.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of feeling of relief that the parents are no longer there.
Yeah.
More so with Leon.
Yes.
Ursula's more like, well, now we don't have to have the house so clean. And she starts taking all the plastic sheets off, and they're like eating like ribs and pizza,
messy
and
stuff.
They're being kids.
Yeah.
And it was like the only part of the movie that felt somewhat normal, in the sense that when kids have freedom, this is exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And they weren't even really kids. They were like they were teenagers.
Yeah, I'd say they're still kids.
Yeah.
Not children, but kids for sure.
Kids, yeah.
So then we see later on, Leon is in the basement. He's talking to Pin. And Pin is telling him that Aunt Dorothy is going to make everything the same as it was before. She's going to put all the plastic covers back on the couches, all of this. Like, Aunt Dorothy got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Then later at dinner, Ursula tells them Aunt Dorothy is eating dinner with them because she's there.
She's there, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a good dinner. And she seems like such a normal, she seems very different from the mother.
She didn't seem uptight.
Not
she
at all.
just wanted to watch, have adult supervision in the house.
That's right. Yep.
So at dinner, Ursula, they're having a great conversation. They're laughing. And then Ursula tells them that she just got a job at the library.
Mm-hmm.
Leon is fucking pissed. Why? He gets mad at literally anything that Ursula does. Like, it doesn't matter what. Okay, she was having sex. You're mad. I get being protective or whatever to a degree. But you're mad that she got a job?
Well, I mean, he wants to fuck her. So...
We just gonna outright say it.
Sorry. Okay, that was very crass, guys. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I've been way worse on this podcast.
Even at this point in the movie, I was like, oh boy. Like, there are some very weird feelings from Leon towards his sister.
But also, even then, why are you mad that she got a job? I guess he wants power over her.
Yeah, control. He doesn't want her to have the opportunity to question Pin. He doesn't want her to leave.
Yeah, that's a big one, I think. For sure. He doesn't want her to grow up and go get a job and have her own family.
No.
That's threatening to him.
For sure.
So Leon's pissed. He runs to Pin.
Yeah, of course.
And this is where he once again, Pin, blames Aunt Dorothy. She's taking over. She's changing Ursula. Ursula never kept secrets from you. That was another thing. He was mad that Ursula didn't tell him that she got a job. But she was like, it literally just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. Like, take it easy.
Relax. But there's no relaxing with Leon. Okay?
No.
None.
Mm-mm.
So I wrote Pin brings Ursula some chocolate milk, but it's not Pin, it's Leon.
Yeah.
I wrote Pin.
Well, because he does. He like goes to her afterwards and he's like, I'm so sorry. Pin convinced me to come and apologize to you. Here's some chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. Like, she's like, okay, whatever. She takes the milk. It's a peace offering.
It's an interesting peace offering, but it is.
Yeah.
Which likely had some type of sleeping pills in it. Some type of drug.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I think so, because now we see Aunt Dorothy is asleep in her bed. And then this is so fucking creepy. You hear Dorothy like that over and over. Yeah. And then right behind you.
Oh, it's so creepy.
He says right behind you. She turns over. You see just Pin. You only see Pin rise up from the bed like he was laying next to her. Mm-hmm. Just rise up. She screams. She can't open the door. It's locked. She has like heart medication on the table on the nightstand. She can't get to it. So she ends up like collapsing.
She has a heart attack, a full-on massive heart attack, because she gets so scared.
Yeah.
Literally scared to death.
And then we do see that Leon was standing behind Pin, but they do make it look like Pin just sits up out of the bed. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a little just like that moment of, oh my gosh, he's alive. He's standing up. And then you're like, oh, he was behind him. I don't know. I just wanted him to be alive at the end.
I mean, I don't blame you. I get it. One thing I will say is like, they're talking to, I think it's Ursula is talking to the coroner. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, she had a bad ticker.
Oh yeah. He's like, buy the pills on the bedside. She had a bad why would you?
I love like that's the investigation.
The ticker. Yeah.
Just she had a bad ticker. So, that must be it.
And concluded. And we're closing this case.
We're done.
Case solved. We're not looking into it any further. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess what else would you really look into I don't know. But we see shots here of Pin watching Ursula from the window. And here it seems that he moves away from the window. So you see him in the window, then he moves away.
He's also in a wheelchair, by the way, guys. I don't know if we mentioned that, but he's been in a wheelchair for a lot of the movie.
I don't know that I noticed that he was until the scene that's coming up later.
Oh.
And then I noted it. But he might have been, yeah.
Yeah, he's been in a wheelchair for a while.
And that would make sense that he just like pulled the wheelchair away from the window. Probably.
Yep,
but it looks like Pin moves, okay? So Leon gives Pin and Dorothy's old room, which is very interesting. And Ursula comes home from work one day. She sees that Leon had cooked dinner.
Yes, very nice.
Very nice. That part's nice. And then she also sees that he covered Pin in some type of skin.
Dude.
And gave him blonde hair so he looks more human.
Dude, it reminded me of Puppet Master 2.
You'll have to show me. You need to show me like a picture.
I'm going to show you. I'll post it on Instagram too. But at the end of Puppet Master 2, Toulon is like a walking doll thing, and it's so unsettling because it's almost like Uncanny Valley.
Oh, that's exactly what this looks like.
Yeah.
Like he looks human, but he does not look human. Something is wrong.
Yeah, and she even is like, oh shit.
It's very upsetting. And also I want to know, how the fuck did he do that?
I don't know. But like,
what did he use?
It's super weird. And he tells her like, I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I'm going to be a poet and it's going to be great. And she's like, dude, great. Pin's got to go.
Yeah.
Like she is not happy about this whole skin situation.
Because he's also at the dinner table with them.
Yes, he's sitting and eating dinner with them. And she's like, I can't eat dinner while he's staring at me.
Yeah, Leon's like having a nonchalant conversation. She's visibly upset. And of course, Leon fucking loses it. He's like, he's the best friend you've ever had. He got you all these gifts. Mother didn't get you this. Father didn't get you this. And it's like, what?
Like, well, first of all, the house you're living in, your parents paid for.
Right.
And the food that you're eating, I'm imagining, is from the money that your parents earned. Pin didn't give you anything.
Right.
But at the same time, knowing what we know about Pin and knowing what we know about his mental health, it's also incredibly sad.
It is really sad.
It's incredibly heartbreaking because he's clearly having a psychotic break.
Yeah.
And has created this whole imaginary reality for himself.
Yeah.
And part of that, a massive part of that, is because his parents never talked to him about anything and forced upon him these unrealistic standards that nobody could live up to.
Right. On a lesser scale, like a less extreme scale of this, it reminds me of like why people don't want to give their kids really expensive gifts from Santa. If it's going to be from Santa, it's going to be something very small because they're like, I bought this giant ass gift, like not Santa Claus. Like you're not about to be like, oh my gosh, Santa did this. Like, no, I did that. I've heard parents talk about that. And it kind of reminds me of Pin because he filtered everything. The father filtered everything through Pin, education, gifts. And now Leon's looking at Pin like, you are my provider and you are my everything.
Yeah. And instead of like explaining to Leon in a way that wasn't like so forbidden, like you can't talk to Pin when I'm not around, instead of being like, well, Pin stays at the office because that's where he lives. You know what I mean? Like there's a way that you can talk to children that's not making them feel like something is taboo, because the second something's taboo, then you want more of it. You want to know what it is or whatever, right?
And I also didn't think about this until right now, but the father never had a conversation with Pin when he grew older. Like, okay, so here's the deal with Pin.
No, never. No, exactly.
Right? Or maybe he did, and Leon lost it, so he was like, never mind, we're just gonna keep going with it.
I really don't know, but it's just so obvious that like the parents just really, really, really mess these kids up.
They set them up for failure for sure.
Massively.
So Leon's like, go downstairs and you apologize to Pin right now. If you can't accept there are 3 of us in this house, you can live on the street.
Like, Leon, really? Because I'm pretty sure the estate is also in my name, motherfucker.
Right. Like, who the fuck are you? Maybe he was 18 and that's why he had everything. Because she's still, what, 16? I don't know.
Bingo. You're right.
So she's like, look, I just can't eat when he's at the table. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to him. If he agrees, you promise to be nicer to him. And she's just like, sure. She's just trying to get out of this scenario.
She like appeases him. Yeah. Like she's just like, whatever.
So at the library, Ursula meets this little hottie McToddy.
Little handsome dude. He's like, I thought the scene was very cute.
Yeah.
And it comes in and he's obviously enamored by her. Mm-hmm. And he asks her for the time. And there's like a clock behind her. It's really cute. Like she's just like, she like points to the clock. Mm-hmm. But she realizes like pretty quickly that he's staring. He's into her.
Yeah, he's making it obvious that he's just looking for an excuse to talk to her, which is cute.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm.
So Ursula foolishly divulges this to her brother. I'm like, why do you even tell him anything anymore?
I know. I was like, girl, don't tell him, because of course he doesn't take it well.
No.
And he asks her if she's going to go out with him. And then he points out that like she hasn't dated anyone since she terminated her pregnancy.
Yeah.
And he asks her if she gets the need still.
It's still using that. Don't you get the need anymore?
Okay, if your brother asked you that,
I would fucking throw up.
I know. Like,
and she's like, sometimes. So the next day, Leon runs into them downtown.
Yeah, they're like
they are.
Holding hands or walking together.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ursula and Stan. We Stan.
We do.
Stan invited her on a date, and Leon is not thrilled. He kind of invites her there. Like, I think they were going to have dinner together that night, and Ursula's like, oh, well, Stan actually invited me out, so, you know, I'm going to take rain check or whatever. And Leon's pissed because he was going to make them steaks.
He's very upset about this.
Like, she has dinner with you every single night.
Take it easy.
Let her have a life, but you know that's not what Leon is about.
No.
So Ursula and Stan, they go to dinner, then a movie. She seems to really like him. It's really cute.
Yeah, and they connect over the loss of their parents.
Yeah.
It sounds as though Stan lost his father and his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that in common. And it also seems as though he has compassion and empathy, and they go to the movies and they even sneak their dinner in the movies.
Yeah, because they're running late. So they're like eating it out of the popcorn box. So it's cute.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is so cute.
Do you remember when theaters used to care about sneaking in food? I don't know if they still do, but it seems like they don't.
I still like sneak it because I feel bad, but I always buy drinks from the concession.
Oh, yeah.
I always will at least get like a large Diet Coke.
So I love getting a movie theater popcorn, but I will sneak in other snacks. I'm sorry, your prices are outrageous. But popcorn, I will get fresh at the theater. I will do that.
Some of them don't use butter. I think Regal doesn't use butter, and I don't think AMC uses butter. They use like it's basically like plastic. So I'll have that.
I'll have that. But I was going to say, a lot of them you can ask for real butter. Well, obviously you wouldn't, but yeah. I think you can ask for no butter.
Yeah, and the only ones that I can't are like the independent theaters. They use real butter.
Yeah.
Anyways, in case you were curious.
Just so you know. Well, I honestly didn't know that until last year that I could ask for real butter a lot of places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a little tidbit. And I will say the real butter for me personally, the artificial butter hurts my stomach really bad. Oh. I don't know what it is that's in it. Because I will smash a popcorn by myself. Okay. Delicious.
Large, done.
A lot of fiber in popcorn too. So that's good. Mm-hmm. But the artificial butter hurts my stomach. Like I actually have a stomach ache, but it does not do it if I eat real butter.
That's interesting because I was at the movies and I got a large popcorn and I forgot to ask them if it was real butter because I'd been to so many places that don't use real butter. So I was like, oh, they don't use I was 2 or 3 handfuls in and I was like, this tastes so bad. I was like, I don't know what it is. It tastes so nasty. And then my stomach started gurgling and I was like, I think I'm going to stop eating this. Yeah. And then when I left, I asked the concession. I was like, hey, quick question. Like, do you use real butter? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that would do it. Oh,
shit.
Nasty.
That makes sense because if you don't eat dairy, that's going to hurt your stomach for sure.
Dude, and it tasted terrible.
Really?
Yeah. Oh I think I've lost like the acquired, I don't know, the taste.
It is an acquired thing, I think, and just something, because to me, the difference is night and day between artificial and real. Oh my God. Taste.
I'm so hungry now. I'm thinking about food. All right. I'm like,
sorry, that was a little
I've got
sidebar.
Some barbecue chips upstairs.
Ooh, that sounds so good.
Okay,
so she gets home. Ursula gets home after midnight.
And of course, Leon scolds her.
Of course he's pissed. He's like, I thought you'd be home early. And she's like, well, I like him and I'm going out with him again. She's talking to him like a teenager would talk to their father, being rebellious. She's like going up the stairs like, I'm going to go out with him again.
Yeah, it's the dynamic between them is just very dysfunctional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The next day, Leon calls a girl, happens to be Marcia, the one he was not interested in at all before. But he calls her.
Her last name is Bateman, by the way, which I thought was a nice nod to Psycho.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. And it does have a Psycho feel. Is that the movie you said earlier that it reminds you of? Okay. And he asked her on a date all of a sudden. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about Leon, that's kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
So he's telling Penn that he now has the need all of a sudden. And Penn is like, Penn is like, are you just saying that because your sister has the need? Aren't you feeling resentful? Which is it's just so interesting to think about that in real life.
The incestuous like undertones in this movie are like...
They just linger enough to make you feel physically uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah. So cut to Leon and Marsha at the movies. She's kissing all over him. Like, he's watching the movie. She's kissing his ear. He does not care.
Okay, have you?
He wants to watch this movie.
I've never been on Leon's, like, I've never been on her side. Sorry, I've never been on Marsha's side of things where I was like trying to make out with a guy and he wasn't into it. But I've definitely been on the other side where I'm just like, can you not? I actually want to watch this movie.
I think that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's just like, can you stop touching me? I want to see what happens.
I really want to see what happens. Can we just hold off for a second?
I remember seeing the Mothman Prophecies in theater and I was with a boy at the time and he was like definitely wanting to like make out City and I was just really into the Mothman Prophecies and I was like, can this guy stop? Like,
okay, can I tell you a funny story that this just entered my brain for the first time since like high school?
Yeah.
I went on a random like blind date, I guess. Not even blind date. I don't know. When I was in high school with my friend's boyfriend's friend.
Okay.
Who was like, oh, I think your girlfriend's friend is cute. Like, I want to take her on a date. Cool. He comes and picks me up. Like, we're in high school, so he's old enough to drive. And he took me to go see Troy. Do you remember that movie? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know exactly what it is.
It's like a gladiator movie.
Gladiator, yeah.
Cannot tell you a single thing that happened in Troy.
Did you make out with him?
No.
Oh.
I watched the movie like this.
Were you not into him?
The entire time. Well, when I was in high school, I was like terrified of everyone and everything. Like, I think I mentioned before on this podcast, like I didn't really drink too much. I was just afraid of getting in trouble. And like, I don't know, maybe the DARE program really worked for me. I didn't really do anything because I was scared. And I was also afraid of like relationships and I don't know, just
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I watched the movie. Like, have you ever seen the meme of New York from Flavor of Love? Where she's just sitting on the bed in her full clothes and sunglasses like this? I'm going to post it to the Instagram stories.
I think I have, but I can't off
I'm
the
going to
top of
show
my
it
head.
to you. You'll know what it is.
Okay.
That's kind of how I was sitting there. He never made a move.
Okay.
I never made a move. And then we drove back. He took me back.
Did you guys drive in silence or did you talk about the movie?
We talked a little bit, but like he was very quiet. I was very quiet. And then he told my friend's boyfriend after, he's like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling her. Like she was kind of boring.
You were the furthest thing from boring.
It's because I didn't do anything with him.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, you thought I was going to make the first move, bitch?
Oh my God. He called you boring?
Yes. That's okay. Look at me now, sitting on my couch talking about movies. Listen, I'm not boring anymore.
You're never boring, first of all. The guy that was like trying to make out with me at the movies, like I was really into him at the time. I was like in high school and I just thought he was like the hottest thing ever. And he was older than me too. I just had a thing for older boys, I guess. But anyways, when he broke up with me in a coffee time. And it was out of left field. And I remember I was like 15. And I remember looking at him and being like, why?
Oh,
why are you breaking up with me?
That breaks my heart.
I know. It's the only time I've ever been dumped, okay? But it was so sad. And I remember he just looked at me and like, I'm pretty sure it's because I wouldn't like go further with him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, I'm almost positive that's why. But at the time, my little like 15-year-old brain was just like, my 15-year-old heart was shattered.
Yeah.
Shattered. I remember he like breaks up with me and then he walks to the bus stop. And my friend was there, who was my best friend from high school, comes over to me and he like puts his arm around me. And I remember I just put my head on his shoulder and sobbed in coffee time.
Also, I love that he broke up with you and then walked to the bus stop. Like that is not a flex.
I know. I can't even remember why he said that he was breaking up with me, but I just remember it didn't make any sense. And I pieced together years later. I was like, oh, it's because I wouldn't,
Yeah.
It couldn't possibly be my personality.
I think that's typically the case in high school, especially, but even as adults, for sure. People do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
If they're not getting what they want, they're out.
No, it's so true. I just remember breaking my heart.
Oh, that's so sad. Well, you know what? Fuck that guy.
Anyways, he wasn't like Leon, thank God.
Well, don't fuck that guy, literally.
No.
I hope he never gets any. Okay. So back to the movies. Marsha's kissing all over Leon. He does not give a shit. It kind of cuts to show us Ursula simultaneously is on a date with Stan, presumably at his house. I think they end up going to his house.
Yeah.
And she's giving him a gift. She gives him a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's It's not just any watch, guys. Okay. This is like a smartwatch from 1988.
It is a digital watch.
I think this is the year it came out. Yeah, 1988. It is a digital watch. And let me tell you, it beeps on the hour.
Crazy.
So, woo.
Side note, such an annoying feature, present day.
Dude.
Turn that shit off.
I cannot stand when my phone makes noises. However, there is something so satisfying to me about the sound of the typing. I love it.
Oh, I do like that sound.
I love it. And
Yeah.
everyone finds it so annoying. So I always have it turned off. But when I'm alone, bitch, I'm turning that on.
I like, oh yeah, with texting, I like that sound. I also like typing on like a typewriter. I like that.
I like it. I like the sound. I like the
Yeah,
that's
me
not
too.
what it sounds like, but you get it.
I'll listen to that ASMR all day.
Ooh, okay.
So, Leon now has Marsha back in his room and they're making out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, Leon, I found it very interesting that Leon would even know how to do that.
Yeah.
I imagine he's never been on a date before.
I wouldn't think he has been. I mean, he's very like kind of aggressive with her and she's like, dude, let me just take my own clothes off. Like you clearly
yeah.
don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, so I guess they do show it there.
Yeah.
Right?
And he's it's really weird. Like he almost looks like he's disassociating a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah. So he's delaying and he's like, oh, I think I heard someone. I think it might be Pin.
Right. And he tells her that like Pin is known for walking in on him when he has girls.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, because she's like, who's that? And he says it's someone who lives with him or a roommate or something like that.
And she's like looking at him like, dude, do you want to bang or not?
Yeah.
Like,
she's like,
she's kind of like, are we going to do this?
yeah.
Or?
At one point, she's like, okay, just put a chair under the door and he won't walk in. Like,
Yeah.
she's ready.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, it's heavily implied that they're going to hook up.
Right.
And then he's
definitely leading her on. He's not interested.
He's not interested. And you know what? Listen, you know what, dude? If you don't want to do it, it's okay.
Yes.
You draw the line.
Just say that.
Just say that. Exactly.
But he does end up saying like, oh, I can't do it knowing that he's in the house. It just, that he's in the same house, it just bothers me.
Which like, okay. It's a valid reason to like, right?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah.
know. I don't think it's a big deal that he doesn't want to.
No, I don't either. And she's annoyed. And I did write down like, also, if he's not into it, like let him be. It's fine.
Exactly. I think but the point is it's obvious that he's like sexually repressed.
Yeah. And he lured her there. He's like implying that,
I thought
what?
he was luring her there to kill her. That's what I
did
thought
too.
originally.
I did too. And maybe that was going to happen, which we're about to find out. Like it could have.
Yeah.
So also, you know what? You can sometimes, not lure, but sometimes you can be into it and then you change your
just,
mind.
Like, not
and
into
that's
it.
okay.
Totally fine.
It would help. It'd be helpful if he said that.
Agreed.
It would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells him, I told my brother I was coming to see you and he laughed. I defended you. Boy, was I dumb. So she is being rude about it, I will say. And Leon's like,
whatever, babe.
Excuse me for a minute. Yeah, basically. Whatever, babe. I'm going to go get Pin.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, excuse me for a moment. I think he does say that.
And he like turns all the lights off.
He turns all the lights off in the house and she leaves. She tries to.
She's scared.
Yeah, she starts to leave.
She can't find her jacket though.
Mm-hmm.
So she's looking for her jacket.
Yeah.
And like shit starts to get really weird. And in the darkness, she sees something. And it's Pin.
Pin emerges from the darkness. He's like, hello, Marsha. He's really creepy.
He's like chasing her around the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's trying to escape, but all the doors are locked.
Yeah.
So she gets to the front door. And as she's like rattling with it, you think that Pin's about to kill her.
Yeah, he's approaching.
And Ursula comes in.
Yes.
And
so
stops her.
He might have.
I think he was going to kill her for sure.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Ursula comes in. She immediately starts yelling at Leon.
And Marsha is like hysterical.
She is.
Rightfully so.
And here is the first time I noticed that Leon had Pin in a wheelchair that was kind of rigged up like a remote control car.
Yeah.
I don't know I know there are electric wheelchairs, but usually the person in it is the one controlling it.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what he's done there.
Yeah. So he moves Pin around and the next morning he tells Ursula he's talked to Pin and, I'm sorry I've been so hard on you. Why don't you invite Stan over for dinner?
And he's a little too uppity. He's
Yeah.
a little too chipper.
Very out of character.
Definitely.
And Ursula's like, flat out, I don't think he's ready to meet Pin. She knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
And Leon's like, well, he's going to have to eventually. And we flash forward to Stan coming over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love Stan.
He's so good with him. He plays along. He humors him. He acts like nothing is weird or unsettling, even though you can kind of see it in his face at first.
For sure. But he, especially like, I would say, how old do you think Stan is? Like 19?
Probably.
Somewhere in there.
Their
Like
age.
he's got to be close to Ursula's age, I would think. And he handles it with such grace. He introduces himself to Pin. He tells Pin, like, I've heard so much about you.
I definitely think Ursula gave him the Iggy beforehand.
She definitely did.
But it's not like it was, it's not like they had smartphones where she could show him a picture of like, hey, just so you know, this is what Pin's going to look like. Because when he does see Pin, you can see it in his face. He's like, oh, shit.
Oh, he's like, okay, that is Pin. He also brings Ursula a box of chocolates, but Leon takes them and is like, oh, Pin's going to love these.
Yes. And he's like, okay. He just goes along with it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he is like he's a good dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when Leon introduces Pin to Stan and Stan pauses, but then he's like, oh, nice to meet you. Leon is clearly not pleased here. He wanted a different reaction.
Oh, he wanted Stan to freak out or be like he's not real or whatever.
Yeah, I think he wanted to scare him away.
Absolutely did.
And it didn't work.
It did not work. They're having dinner and Leon is quiet and he's not talking. And Stan is talking kind of about his like high school football years. And he's telling like, you know, they're both laughing. Him and Ursula are having a good time. Leon is pissed and he is not saying a gosh darn thing.
Yeah. And Stan is so great at dinner. Like he's sociable. He's complimenting Leon. Mm-hmm. He's saying that he's interested in his poetry. Yeah,
he really does. He's like, no, I would love to hear some of your poetry. Like he's being a really good dude.
Yeah.
And Leon is just being Leon. But after dinner, they're all kind of like hanging out in the, what would you call that? Like a sitting room?
I feel like it's their, yes. Yeah.
Kind of like a living room, sitting room.
I feel like they don't have a living room. They have like a study or like I don't know, something where plastic is all over the furniture.
Yeah. At my grandma's house, we kind of had a sitting room. We had a TV room and then we had like a sitting room.
Okay.
But this scene is so really disturbing.
Yeah.
Leon is explaining his poetry.
Yeah. He ends up reading a poem, right?
He does. He talks about the poet Testes. And he talks about, I actually researched it because I wanted to know.
Yeah, the background.
Like, yeah, the background on what exactly this poetry was about. And apparently that poet he's a French poet. And he's one of the most famous French poets from many, many years ago. Like, we're talking AD.
Yeah.
Like, forever ago.
Yeah.
But I guess he's a very influential poet.
Right.
That's the most I could find out. I'm sure I could have went down a freaking rabbit hole on that, but I really didn't feel like it. And I don't find poetry very interesting. I know that's terrible, but it's just my eyes glaze over.
You're allowed to have your own interests. Some people are into it, some aren't.
Yeah.
I used to write poems when I was a kid. And they were really bad.
Oh, I did too. I wrote like weird lyrics and all kinds of weird shit. But yeah, but he's talking about poetry, and then he goes on to tell one of his poems.
Yes.
And it is clearly about having sex with his sister.
Yeah. Yes. I think at one point, Stan even mentions how, because he's very concerned after this, rightfully so.
I was concerned.
Well, yeah. Leon takes Pin upstairs.
It's literally about sexually assaulting his sister.
Exactly. That's what Stan says.
Yes.
Where he's like, are you not concerned about this? And he mentions like, he just read a poem about assaulting his sister.
Yes.
And she's like, well, you know, he's just, you know, making excuses for him.
Yeah. And Leon is like excited because Leon is like, whoa, like this guy really likes me and he likes you and it's awesome. He's telling Pin all this. He's like, oh, Pin. And Pin's like, well, you should be careful. I don't know if you should trust this guy.
Pin says, be careful. You have a tendency toward blind optimism. And I wrote, LOL, when? When has he?
That's not what I've seen.
Right. And so this is where Stan is like, what the fuck was that? Like, he's way more concerned than he was at first. And he's telling Ursula that Leon needs psychiatric help.
Yes, that he's paranoid schizophrenic. And
well, she tells him that.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, Ursula agrees with him.
Yeah.
She knows that he's not well, but he's her brother and she's not going to just abandon him. And like, she wants to help him.
She says that even though she knows, she does not want her brother put away.
Yeah, she wants to protect him.
Yeah.
Which I understand. Mm-hmm. Like any loving sister would want to protect their brother.
Yeah. And Stan here does say, he's like, he really believes that thing is real. He's just doing ventriloquism. Mm-hmm. So that's where they first like call it out.
Yeah. And I mean, like we said, Ursula knows.
Yeah. And Ursula knows all along. I had hope, but you know, we're still getting there. There's still more to happen.
I don't know, dude. I was like pretty sure pretty quickly. I was like, there's no way Pin's real. There's too much psychological. There's too many issues with these people that like there's no way the doll's real. That would be the least outrageous thing about this movie.
Yeah. And Ursula, like I mentioned, she does say, I won't have my brother sent to an institution, which this is the 80s. And we mentioned in a previous episode, like that was the thing of the 80s. Like,
for sure.
Oh, there's something questionable about your child, send him to an institution.
For sure, for sure.
So the next day, Leon calls Stan. And he's like, Ursula's birthday's in 2 weeks and I want to plan a party. Want to help me? And Stan's like, okay, sure. And Leon is like, okay, come over in an hour. Don't forget, it's a surprise. So obviously he's not going to mention anything to Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
Stan comes over. Leon pressures Stan into drinking. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm good. I had enough yesterday. And he's like, oh, come on. Like, I never get to drink with anyone. So he pressures Stan into this drink, which he drugs. I think the same way he drugged Ursula earlier.
But also, we forgot to mention that Leon heard Stan telling Ursula that he needs help.
Right. He did hear that. And so he's upset.
Yeah, he overheard this whole, he was all excited and you see like the light just drain out of him. He's like, oh my God. Yeah. And this is why he wants to invite Stan over to kill him.
Right. That is important. Mm-hmm. So he has nefarious
intentions.
Yes, there you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So now Stan is kind enough to walk in and say hello to Pin.
Stan is such a nice guy. Not only that, like when whatever his face is calls him and is like, hey, I'm planning the surprise party. I mean, Stan goes right over there. Yeah. Without question. He's like, yeah, I'll come over.
Even after everything he just witnessed.
No, for real, dude. Yeah. He's like, he's a good guy.
Because he thinks that Leon is harmless, but needs help. Yeah. So now Stan is clearly not well. Something is happening to him because Leon drugged him. Leon is just rambling to him, telling him like all of this plan and about his inheritance and the money and everything. Just like, you know, word diarrhea, cannot stop.
Yeah, and he does show Stan some documents pertaining to Ursula's half of the estate, I think.
Yeah, I think it was something about inheritance. I knew it was financial.
Mm-hmm. Weird thing to show to her boyfriend, but all right.
Yeah, I was like, why are you even going into all this? So there's a point where Stan tries to stand up. He knows that something is wrong with him. And you see him rise up and Leon is worried. He's like, oh shit, I thought I drugged him enough. Then Stan falls and Pin says, get him.
I don't know. I was so annoyed at this point in the movie. Like I just found them both to be like Pin and Leon, I was just like, oh, you're
like, I'm over them. So they wrestle a little bit. Like Stan is still pretty with it, but he is drugged. And then Leon bludgeons him with a horse statue. He gets on top of him and hits him over the head more than once, I think, with a horse statue.
For sure. A few times. And his watch flies off.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath like one of the couches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Leon blames Pin for not telling him the right dosage. And Leon's freaking out and Pin's like, you must have learned something from your mother. Get a sack, put the body in it, and go to the river. And I was like, whoa, wait. Like, did his mother kill someone? But I think he meant about
the cleanliness.
Cleaning. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get the bleach.
Yeah.
And as this is all happening, Ursula is at the library, and the head librarian is like, hey, girl, you can have the rest of the day off. Just finish all this stuff. So she gets off early. And she calls Stan. Stan doesn't answer. And I believe then she calls Leon.
Yes.
And, I remember why. The inheritance stuff is Leon told and showed Stan that Ursula is worth $700K.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why I wrote that in my notes. I think I just was interesting to me that Leon would be telling Stan how much her net worth is.
Yeah.
I don't know what his intentions were by telling him that. And I'm curious if you guys are listening, if you have ideas as to why.
I do have an idea. I think that he was trying to create his own narrative and because I think he does end up saying something around that point or maybe after.
Yeah.
About Stan only wanting Ursula for her money. So I think he was just like trying to create that narrative around it because he wants to end that relationship.
Whoa. Okay. That makes sense. Cause I was like very interested as to why he was like showing him that.
Yeah, like why are you going through all this?
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, I digressed a little bit there.
No, that makes sense, and it's good to know. So Ursula does call Leon, and she's
and like Leon's like kind of like wigging out, and Pin's like, get it together and answer the phone.
Yeah, and when she tells him that she's coming home early. He's like, no, like go shopping or something.
You should go shop. You should go enjoy yourself. And she's like, okay. And she does.
Yeah, for a little bit.
She goes shopping. Mm-hmm.
But Leon doesn't have time to go to the river. So he tells Pin, I have to hide the body in this giant wood pile outside.
And also, like, when Leon tells her that lie, like, he gets this little, like, smirk on his face. Like, I'm so smooth.
I'm so smart.
Ugh.
So Ursula does get home eventually. And Leon tells her, like, oh, Stan canceled. He didn't show up, like something about a sick friend.
Yeah, he's got a sick friend, so he's not going to make it. And she's kind of like, huh.
That's weird. He didn't call me.
Yeah. And and Leon's like, but don't worry, I made pot roast.
Which I wrote down. Leon didn't have time to go to the river, but he had time to cook dinner.
Of course he did.
But I guess to set up his, I don't know, alibi or something.
And also, like, he's like pointing to all of the food on the table that he like made. Mm-hmm. He's got a big ass knife in his hand. And I wrote in my notes, I'm assuming this is what I thought, but he's pointing at all the food. And I asked, is it supposed to be a metaphor for his dick?
Oh.
Because he's just doing it in this, like, I don't know, maybe it's more of like, I could kill you with this knife, but it just, I don't know, maybe it's because of that incest poem, but I was just like,
I want to watch it back now.
It made me really uncomfortable.
He just makes me uncomfortable in general.
True. Yes. Okay.
He did a great job being a creep.
He did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Ursula is worried about Stan. She's not really enjoying dinner.
No.
He hasn't called her, and that's weird.
Yes.
So she keeps calling him, and Leon's like, oh, so you don't trust him? You think he's cheating on you?
Just gaslighting her.
He wants to discourage her from calling and finding anything out, right?
Yep.
So they start talking about their childhood, and I noted this because Ursula starts remembering her childhood very fondly.
Yeah, like she's talking about her mother, and like instead of like harping on all of the damage and the shitty sides of her mother, she's remembering the good parts of her and the good moments, which, you know, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because she seems to be the healthier of the two.
Yeah, they have opposite perspectives. And it is important to keep that in mind, that always someone can have a different perspective of the same exact situation.
And he's mentally ill.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that she has the same illness.
No, I don't think so. It doesn't seem that way. And she says, you know, we know that the mother was a neat freak, for example, but she's like, what I remember is the house was always neat and clean.
Yeah.
Dinner was always on time. It always tasted good. And
like, it almost feels like she's had like 10 years of therapy.
For real.
Like,
yeah, even the father asking the question thing, like when we watched it, we both seem to feel the same way of like, you're making them do homework before they go to bed. But she's like, father asked me a question every night before bed, and he'd always kiss me on the cheek, whether I got it right or wrong.
I'm telling you, this girl has been through therapy.
She had to have
like, she has reframed her brain.
Or you know what? It's because she told Stan that she read every like psychiatry or psychology book in the library to kind of diagnose Leon, which I guess you shouldn't do, but whatever. For the sake of the story, she has read every book in the library. Maybe she's done her own like self-help. And
unfortunately, she has been forced into a parental role with her brother.
That's true.
At a very, very young age.
Yeah.
Whereas he is like, he thinks he's the role model here, but it's really her keeping him together.
That's very true. So Ursula finds Stan's watch.
Yes, because it beeps on the hour.
So it can help you in this specific scenario. And she immediately is like, what have you done? Because she knows something is wrong. And he immediately is like, Pin did it. Like, can you fucking imagine? I mean, she reacts very realistically. She has a fucking meltdown.
She's looking at him like he's high.
Yeah. So Leon tells Ursula that Stan got into an argument with Pin. She must be like, I'm so fucking fed up. He hit his head on the mantle and he was dead before I got here.
It's so obvious that he's lying.
Yeah.
And Ursula sees right through it.
Well, yeah, he didn't get into a fucking argument with Pin. She's like, you're Pin, you dumb asshole.
I know. And he's looking at Pin like, help me out, man.
Oh my gosh. Like, I would just want to set them both on fire. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. For sure. For sure. And there's a little quip between them that like Pin basically says to him, like, you don't know how to lie and neither do I. And that's why we like suck at it.
Yeah. And Pin also tells Leon, we didn't do it for Ursula. We did it for you.
Yes.
Which is true. And then Ursula runs back into the room, slow motion with a fucking axe.
Dude.
You just see like the POV of where Leon and Pin are standing and you're like, oh shit. Like I honestly... it makes sense that she would have went to that after the bullshit he is telling her.
No, exactly. And then we cut to being outside, the police are there. They're uncovering the wood pile, and believe it or not, Stan is still alive.
That made me so happy.
Me too. I was not expecting that.
No.
And honestly, for a second, I was like, oh my God, they're going to pin everything on her. Like, I was so worried for Ursula that, like...
It's like Intruder all over again.
No, for real. I was like, oh God, no, please, Ursula, no. But no, that isn't what happens. Stan is alive, and... we are now driving up to the house.
Yeah, we cut to Ursula and Stan driving up to the house.
They're like
way later.
They're like in a convertible or something, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Maybe
I made that up.
No, I think they are in a convertible. And for some reason, I'm under the impression this is like at least months later, if not longer.
Yeah. And you know what? I think I thought that they were going to pin it on Ursula because she's in the car and she's like banging on the window when she sees that Stan's alive.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, they're going to think it's her, you know? I don't know. Anyway.
I think she was just very excited that he was alive because so were we.
Mm-hmm.
So Ursula goes into the house. In the hallway, we see that there's a nurse in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, hello. Like she knows her already. So she's been here before. And she's visiting Pin.
Mm-hmm.
We see Pin in the wheelchair looking out the window.
You knew this was Leon, right?
No.
Really?
I didn't know.
As soon as I saw the nurse, I was like, okay, it's Leon is Pin from the beginning.
I think I just thought that was Pin, like Leon was somewhere else, but that was Pin that he set up at the window.
Okay.
And also, I wasn't really sure. I think sometimes I do a pretty good job of turning my brain off when I watch these movies.
I think it's great.
Like I don't even try to think about what is going to happen. I just want them to show me.
No, I get you.
She's visiting. It looks like she's visiting Pin. He's sitting from behind, we see the suit, the blonde hair, same as before. And she tells him, Stan and I are going to Cape Cod for the weekend and we just wanted to pay a visit, blah, blah, blah. And Pin asks her to wind up the ballerina toy from before. So she does. And Pin asks, have you heard from Leon? I miss him a great deal. She has not heard from Leon. And she says, so do I. And then it cuts to in front of Pin so we can see his face now. And it is fucking Leon with like the blonde wig that he put on Pin, I guess, and the suit. And he's in the wheelchair.
Did he not look like Pino from Silent Night and Deadly Night?
Yes, because it's uncanny. It's a real person's face, but he's wearing like fake hair, even though he has hair. He wants to wear Pin's hair. So yeah, it just looks weird.
It was like Puppet Master 2 meets Pino from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
So she chopped up Pin with that axe. She didn't chop up her brother, which was a possibility.
For sure.
And so another reason why we thought maybe she was getting put away because she murdered Leon.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh shit, she killed her brother. This is bad.
But she didn't. And that is the end of motherfucking Pin.
How great were the end credit music?
Oh, it's so creepy.
It is so like uplifting and unsettling.
Oh, I said creepy. Yeah, unsettling.
But it's like uplifting, like kind of happy music. And I was like, this is not a happy ending.
Maybe it's happy for Ursula. She escaped alive and so did Stan. Yeah. And they're still together.
They are still together.
To this day in my mind.
He stuck with her. And I don't know. I liked it.
I thought you said he's stuck with her.
Oh, well, maybe he is.
He did stick with her.
He did. He stuck with her. I liked the movie. I thought it was good. I don't know who I would recommend this to, apart from our audience.
Right. I only recommend it to people that I think are going to be down for a movie that's weird.
Yeah.
That I like. You, for example, I'm like, I can't wait for Laura to watch this because I want to hear her reaction.
Yeah, like it was interesting because you can look at it very basic as, what it is. The mannequin could be alive, couldn't be alive. Like you could look at it very basically, but it's very, very, very obvious that this is a film about sex and sexual repression and
mental
health. What happens when you grow up in a very sheltered environment where nobody talks about anything, where there's no open dialogue between the children and the parents. You're just being dictated to. And so you end up, I think, taking what your parents say at face value and then internalizing that, and then it creates shame. And then it becomes this horrible cycle.
Oh, a lot of shame.
Lots of shame, right? And I really do feel like Leon, he's such an interesting character because on the one hand, it's heartbreaking, but he's psychologically unwell. But on the other hand, he's abusive and controlling and he's not getting help for his illness. But then it's like he doesn't have any guidance to help him get help. So it's sad in a lot of ways.
It is very sad. For Leon, for sure, and the family in general. But
and the family and Ursula, I felt so protective of Ursula throughout the film because, as a young woman, when you don't have the support of an older person, whether it's a sister, whether it's a mother, whether it's an aunt, whether it's a dad, whoever it is, if you don't have that and you're just being told constantly that like sex is bad and you're disgusting if you do it, it creates such a unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
With that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I know I'm getting really deep on this. And
no, it makes a lot of sense. And it's very common, and it's not the way to go about it. Like, shaming someone isn't going to necessarily prevent them from doing the thing you don't want them to do.
No, you're just going to feel bad when you do it.
Yeah. In fact, it might even create a taboo around it or a fetish around it, or it could go a number of ways.
Yes.
Where they're going to, I don't know, explore that a little more because like, oh, once they have freedom, they're going to go do that. Once they realize they have freedom, they're going to go do it.
Yeah. And it like, the movie's very layered. So I'm curious about the book.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to read it, but I'm scared.
Yeah. I think that'd be an audiobook for me.
Yeah, for sure. But I think you're better off teaching people about like sex, for example, teaching them so that they can make educated and safe decisions. Even if you discourage them from doing it, too young. I understand that. I do.
Sure, of
Absolutely.
course. Yes, of course. For a lot of reasons.
And on one hand, I don't know, like, I think Leon just had an illness that was unaddressed, undiagnosed, except by, Ursula. She diagnosed it. But because the father was trying to educate them, it was in a weird way, like the dummy and the like take off the towel and the whole like other stuff. Yeah. But he was at least trying to educate them about it to where I guess it sat well with Ursula.
Right.
Not with Leon.
Yeah, I would love for a psychiatrist to watch this and unpack it because I am not qualified to do that. But I can say that this movie brought up some very interesting feelings for me. Yeah. Where I was like, it's easy to sit back and just watch it as a movie. Yeah. And it's, because it is very fucking fucked up and weird. And but it's also more than that, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that aspect fascinates me. I would love to talk to a professional and get their opinion on this movie and just the aspects of it.
I'm literally gonna like call my therapist and be like, girl, next session, we're going to watch a movie together and we are going to talk about it.
That would be, oh my gosh. If you do that, please let me know. I want to know. I want to know the things that you can tell me about it because I'm so curious.
No, it is. It's interesting. And I loved it. I really liked it.
I'm so glad.
Loved that it was Canadian.
I was a little nervous to recommend this to you because I just didn't know how you're going to feel about it. Also, this was a movie I wanted to recommend to you like right after our first loop, but because I just made you watch Possum.
Two separate movies,
I know. And now I see that the feel is different. But because it was like two inanimate objects, two really fucking weird movies, I was like, I'm not going to suggest Pin right now. I'm going to give it a little bit.
Okay, it's fair. It's fair. However, I did like it.
I'm so glad.
I did. I thought it was a wild ride. I paused it several times watching it and turned to my husband and was like, I think this might be the weirdest movie I've ever watched in my life.
That makes me so happy.
I mean, he walked in a couple times and was just like, he walked in at the weirdest times.
Of course.
And he was just like, I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, but it's Canadian for sure.
I love that he picked that up and I couldn't. But if you've watched it, please, if you haven't, please go watch it. Mm-hmm. And if you're watching it for the first time because of this podcast, I need to know.
Yeah, please
comment. I want to know. I want to discuss this movie.
Yes.
I'm so excited to see the comments on this video.
I know. And you can comment on our Instagram. It's at Chainsaw Girls Pod. You can comment on YouTube. We post every Monday at noon. It's a premiere, so you can like chat with us and with other people.
Yeah.
It would really help us if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps the podcast grow.
Yes.
We're also on TikTok.
Yeah.
What else are we on?
Instagram. That's mostly it. Technically Facebook, but we don't use it as much.
We don't use it very much. At Chainsaw Girls Pod, you could also email us all your thoughts. We love getting your emails. chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com. And we also have a Patreon.
Yes, we're going to do an extended episode immediately after this one.
We appreciate our patrons so much. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, you're getting early episodes on Saturdays right now. Mm-hmm. So if you're a patron, you've already heard this. If it dropped on a Monday,
no, you're good.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
You get early episodes, by the way, on Patreon. On Saturdays, we're dropping them early for patrons, extended episodes, bonus episodes.
Okay, bye.